Hey y'all, it's your boy back again with another Blackout video. This is slowly becoming a norm. it's uh it's 4:28 in the morning. Uh my son is asleep because he's here with me on the holidays and stuff. So this is probably gonna be like one of the few times where I'm actually gonna be able to record without noise in the background. So if you get any videos from me within like the next week or so, it's probably gonna be Blackout videos. So gonna be like first thing early in the morning, kind of deal. But all my parents out there, y'all kind of know what I mean. Um, anyway, I know there's gonna be a lot of talk. Well, there has been a lot of talk about the interview with Stan yesterday, uh, post practice, and the stuff that he was saying about the team, but specifically Lonzo. And I gotta say something. It don't surprise me. It really don't surprise me. Now, if you guys don't know what I'm talking about, Stan did his post practice uh, interview for the Pelicans. you know, which is odd because they went to practice the day after the game. Uh, but you know, he has some pretty interesting quotes. Uh, he one of the things he said that was pretty interesting is he said he didn't want to put a ceiling on Lonzo because someone asked, it was like, hey, is this about what you want to see from Lonzo? He was like, look, I don't want to put a ceiling on him, you know. And he basically also alluded, he said, like, I don't even think he's scratched the surface of his potential, you know. So there was some pretty interesting things lined up here. Um, he talked about Lonzo's long range passing and the decision making on the passing. He said he's noticed Lonzo is purposely held back throwing some of those passes um, to basically to play a more complete game. Now he was saying he didn't want to take away Lonzo's aggression with those long bombs, but he was saying he wants him to make the smarter long range play. So basically, he don't want him. If it's risky, don't throw it. He was like the difference between a good player and a great player is like 5 possessions in the game, and he's like the great players don't turn the ball over, or give the opponent like a chance to make a play or take advantage of a situation. And it's like good players will do it, like once a game on both ends. So it's like if you want to be great, you got to play a more complete uh, game. You know, you got to protect the ball better, and he's acknowledged that Lonzo has done that. Um, he's also mentioned how smart Lonzo is, and he's done this several times now. But he went into detail. He's like, "Hey, we just got through talking, before I came over here, and these were some of the things we were talking about. He's a smart guy, very talented. Um, basically, he was promoting Lonzo to the media. It's like, hey, yo, this is my guy, and I think it's interesting because it didn't take long. It didn't take long for certain Pelicans blog guys uh, to go ahead and make their dig at Lonzo. And I'm not going to give this guy uh, any kind of, I guess, added promotion. You guys, if you've been online, you've probably seen the comment where the guy said, hey, if Lonzo shoots above average and stuff, we can look to trade him. you know, I don't get how you have these media guys who personally hate the players on the team, but they're allowed to sit there and, interview or do reporting. Like, I really don't get that, but, hey, I guess you do what you do. Media is media, I guess. But, you know, it's funny. Even when Zoe does good, it's still never enough. And I said that in the video before. I said, no matter what Zoe does, there's going to be people that just do not like him. And it's fine, you know. As AD said, rise above the hate and everything. But anyway, so Stan basically spoke very glowingly of Lonzo. And like I said, this stuff don't surprise me. I told you guys he would need to go to practice, and if he wanted to change the perspective on him, he would have to show up to practice and put in work. And Stan, I think Stan has always come off as one of those guys that like smart players. Like if you're a smart player, I think he takes a fondness to you. Um, and Lonzo's IQ has probably impressed him the most, along with his work ethic. He said, like, since they had that one break, which I think he means after that first game, he's like, Lonzo's been on it. Now, he said, Lonzo missed a couple of days of practice or whatever. Now, Lonzo was sick. He didn't have COVID, but he was sick. And I don't think he actually missed the practices. He was there. He just couldn't participate fully. So, if you think about it, he was sick and was recovering and played a game. And then, now it's like, okay, he's like, ever since then, he's been like phenomenal. He's been one of the better players in practice. He's been playing really, really well, so that's good. Especially when your coach can sit out there and compliment you publicly and glowingly and all of this other stuff. It's good, and again, I think Stan is starting to get the respect of you guys and Pels fans at large. Um, One of the things, like I've told you guys, is I love listening to Stan talk. Stan's knowledge of the game, his even in the interviews and stuff, like Gentry, and I don't want to talk bad about Gentry because I like Gentry. Gentry isn't a dumb dude. He knows his basketball too, but Gentry, I don't find myself wanting to hear Gentry talk as much about the game as I would Stan. Gentry is one of those guys who I'd be like, if I see Gentry just seems like he's just a cool ass dude. Like, hey, you go talk to Gentry about anything, and Gentry, he kind of remind you of that uncle. Now Stan kind of remind you of that uncle a little bit too, but Stan also he's like that one uncle who's like, okay, look, we can't cut up around here. But Stan at the same time got so much knowledge that he can impart to you. So when he opens his mouth, you want to listen. And I kind of wonder if the players feel that way too, because they seem to have gravitated toward him and his leadership as a coach and everything. But um, he's basically propping up Lonzo, and there's some things I've heard that have made me pretty feel excited about this. Like he said after practice they were discussing basically the game plan and how they executed and what he's seeing and what he's comfortable with and other stuff and blah blah blah. To be able to go to your point guard, like honestly, even beyond the point guard, going to the point guard, it's like that's something you do for your star players. You go talk to your star players, be like, okay, hey, what do you think? What are you seeing out on the court? What adjustments do you think we should make? Yada yada yada. You know, I would expect the coach to do that with LeBron James, uh, Kevin Durant, Steph Curry, those kind of players. But for him to be putting that on Lonzo must mean he trusts. Like, okay, we hear they say point guard is an extension of the coach. So if they're having these conversations, there's some kind of connection going on there between Stan and Zoe. And so I think he really trusts Lonzo's feel of the game and his leadership on the court. So as far as we're talking about growth of Lonzo, this is great to hear and to see. Um, I'm honest, like that's going to be one of the things I'm going to be watching is their relationship as the years go on. Uh, because let's say in 10 years, you know how JJ has spoken glowingly about Stan. I wonder what Lonzo would be saying in 10 years about Stan. Like, hey, you know, this is where I was in my career, and then when Stan got there, you know, he's always going to be my guy. Blah blah blah. You know, that's something that's an interesting dynamic I want to see unfold as Lonzo's career progresses. Um, but anyway, you know, I think the expectations for Lonzo are rising. Stan in their conversation, his interviews are helping, and Lonzo's preseason game has helped too. Um, and like I told you guys again, I'm being patient on that because I don't want to get caught up in the preseason game because the looks are going to be different in the regular season, and as the tape gets out, teams are going to adjust, and you're going to have to adjust. And granted, we haven't seen all of what Zoe can do, but the future looks bright. If the thing is, like Stanley said too, Zoe's a smart guy. He'll figure it out, and I have faith that he'll figure it out too because Lonzo's not dumb. Um, you know, I think that like as to give you an analogy again to represent what I think has happened between for Zoe within the last year up until now, it's it's like being a mechanic and you have your toolbox and you have to do a job and you look in your toolbox and you don't have the tool for that job. So you're going to try to use what you have to get the job done. Now, you may not do the best job because you don't have the proper tools, but you could do a decent enough job to make it work. Now, if you were to go and get the tool that you needed to do the job, you can get the job done right and faster, be more efficient at it. I think that's a case of what Lonzo is. Lonzo last year didn't have the requisite tools to be effective offensively, but the offseason kind of allowed him to get those tools and develop those tools. And so now he can go and use those tools in game where he couldn't do it last year. Um, because I don't think that Lonzo was not being aggressive because he couldn't be aggressive. I mean, well, let me take that back. I don't think he was being aggressive because he just wasn't aggressive. I don't think he felt he could be aggressive. You know, we've seen Lonzo and the rest of the Ball family growing up. Those guys were always aggressive, but there's a difference between competition level and overall skill as you progress through the ranks. And if you don't have the skill set to deal with it, then you have to go get the skill set to deal with it. Lonzo just got the skill set to kind of deal with it. Um, Now, do I think Lonzo's going to be one of these guys that's going to be like 20 something, 11 and 10 every night? Absolutely not. I don't think that was his ceiling to begin with. You know, point guards historically like him on the high end, or Magic Johnson, they average 19 a game, you know, or Chris Paul was like 17, 18 a game. Most of the time they're around that 14, 15 point a game, uh, 8, 9 assists kind of guy. Normally they're on the lower end for rebounds, but because he's taller, he should be, 6, 7, 8 rebounds a game. That's what his career numbers should look like. And again, that's career. That doesn't mean he won't have years where he might put up 22, 10, and 8 or something like that. You know, Magic Johnson best years was like 23 or 22, 13, and like 7 or something like that, you know. But his career average overall was like 19, 10, and like 7, you know. So we'll see what's the future going to be, what the future will be for Lonzo. But as far as I'm concerned, it looks bright. I'm glad to see the stuff that Stan said. I'm not going to overvalue that. Uh, I don't think Stan has a reason to lie. I don't think he was lying. I think he was telling the truth. But I kind of want to see the dynamic on the court. You know, uh, let's see the games. Let's see him and Lonzo interact. Let's see, what Lonzo's role expands to, because Stan was kind of holding back on giving people a role. Um, to me, that was interesting. You would think that to some degree, it's like, okay, you kind of already know what it is. And I know he's coming into a new team, he had to get used to. But even still, he was kind of reluctant on giving roles for people in the last couple of interviews he's done. So I think, again, Lonzo and maybe some of the other guys have changed his views. And so now he's like, okay, I completely see, something different. Let me adjust. Also, I want to take you guys back here for a minute. If you guys remember, Griff was talking about whoever, or the reports came out that, Griff and those guys wanted whoever they brought in to be on the same page with uh, them about Lonzo. So I'm just going to pose a question. What do you guys think they were looking for when they hired a coach in regards to Lonzo? Because for them to have someone be on the same page about Zoe, and we starting to see certain changes within Zoe on court, I think one of the things or the questions they asked guys in the interview is they asked them how they felt about Zoe to pick their brain, and then they wanted to know how they were going to grow him, what direction they're going to take. And I think Stan must have hit it on the head. Uh, I think if I was Stan, I think Stan probably would have said something along the lines of, he's a great player, smart IQ, great in transition, but the growth for Lonzo has to be attacking mindset off the pick and roll and just being a more willing scorer. And Stan must have been like, okay, what I can do for Lonzo is I can teach him how to play pick and roll at the highest level, and I can teach him how to make the correct shot selection to be effective as for him and the team. Now, I think given some of the candidates out there, Stan probably hit with Lonzo more of what they were looking for. Um, but we'll see. Uh, I know a lot of people don't necessarily want to give Lonzo a max, but you're either going to have to pay him a max or you're going to have to let him go. And so we'll see, because I don't think that they would try to invest to improve Lonzo and then not pay him. Right now, they probably could afford to pay him until Zion comes, and then after that, it's like, you never know. Now, like I've seen and said before, there are teams that are looking to trade for BI. And I've been one of the people that said I don't think BI tangibly fits next to Zoe and Zion easily. Now listen to me, I don't want y'all getting pissed off. I'm not saying he can't play next to them, but what I'm saying is he don't have that synergy. Like, okay, for instance, Golden State, when they had Clay, Steph, and Dre, they had like a seamless, natural chemistry that was there. I don't necessarily think BI has that natural thing. Like last year, we saw Zoe and Zion had this natural chemistry. And so I could see a future where the Pels may look to trade BI. Now, think about this. They didn't give him all these other options and stuff in the contract, but they gave him the trade bonus, right? They're, why would they do that? If this is your guy, why would you offer him the little trade kicker? You know, why would you put that in the contract? There's no options for him, and so he can't like as basically if BI is who BI is, his contract is more valuable if you were going to trade him because it's like he's souped up, he's guaranteed for X amount of years. There's no option, he can't opt out. He is stuck. And so teams could be like, okay, that's a valuable asset, a young asset. And they'd be like, okay, a team that's like, we need a player to build around or something like that. They may be looking to get a Brandon Ingram. And you sit there, and if Lonzo is this guy who's going to average what he put up um, on Friday, then you might be like, maybe it's better to keep Zoe and Zion and then get build around those two as the core versus keeping all three, which would be expensive and BI doesn't necessarily seamlessly fit. That's a dynamic to keep your eye on. Now again, I'm not saying this is gonna happen, but there's certain things that I have to look at and you have to just be like, why did that happen? And so you could go and maybe look back in a couple of years and be like, oh, okay, right. It may not happen this year, next year, even the following year, but we'll see how things unfold. Zion still has next year and the season after, then he's due his contract. So 2 more years. Okay. Um, if we factor in this year, next year, BI would have 3 years left on his deal. Depending on how many years they would contract out Zoe, they could. I doubt they would give Zoe a 2 year contract. That's a slap in the face. Um, any team would go offer him more and they'd have to match. So they're gonna have to offer him either 4 or 5 years. Period. Um, so we'll see. Um, this thing could go so many different ways. But I tell you what, even if they did trade Bi Max Zoe out and plan to give Zion a max, you can go replace Bi and get a whole bunch of support pieces that fit around what Zion and Zoe would want to do better, and you'd have your team. But we'll see. Hopefully we get to keep all three of the guys together and this works out and everything. But if not, that's the nature of the business. Either way, they're gonna lose Bi or Zion. I mean, or Zoe. I'm sorry. They're gonna lose Bi or Zoe in my estimation within the next 4 to 5 years. I hope not, but all things point to me thinking one of them is gonna be gone. Um, so we'll see what happens with that. But as always, I like hearing Stan give his interviews. He's very thoughtful. Um, you know, he's gonna tell it like it is. Hey, there was one play I didn't like from Zoe, and it was that long range bomb, and he let it know. He was like, hey, y'all saw it. I was upset. Zoe knew it. Zoe knew it when it happened. So it is what it is. But it's your boy. You know, I know this is kind of like a long, it's 23 minutes, but early morning blackout video. Uh, I'll catch y'all later. Peace. Y'all have a good one.